Right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Let's have a look at some of these coins then, shall we? As we're having a bit of a pump at the moment. Alright, Chris, and no, I'm dyslexic. Is it I am? I hope that's right. Welcome to the chat, guys. Let's have a peek then, shall we? So let's get some of these major coins up to start with. The coins of interest, that will be Ethereum, BNB. And for these Telegram guys, we're going to have a look at One clearly, because I know you guys are going to be dying to hear some news about One. So let's have a look at that, shall we? What else are we going to look at? Matic, one of our favourites. Pop that in there. Let's have a peep at that. XRP, because I like to trade that. Not because I expect much of it, but I do think it's going to pump on the initial pump, that would be. What else should we look at? Link seems to be doing okay. Ethereum Classic. Oh my god, Ethereum Classic, you beast. And we'll start off with that. Right, so let's have a look at these. So on the 5-minute chart, because I've been doing a little bit of trading before I started this live stream, so I always go to the old 5-minute chat to get myself a good entry point, or to see basically the trend as it progresses. But really, we need to stare at this chart, don't we? Which is the old daily chart. So daily chart, we're coming into the middle of the not the middle, we've broken above the centre of the Bollinger Band. We're coming up towards the top, but really what we're looking to do is break and stay and close above pretty much where we are right now, at 8,500 area, which is this previous level, the top level of this Ichimoku cloud. Sorry, I'm really tired. For those who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do know because I'm bang on about it all the time, just had another baby in the house. So I've got 2 kids now. One's 2.5, the other one is 3 days old. So basically that leaves pretty much 0 time for me to do anything that I want to do. But I can do something sometimes, so that's why I'm doing this now. But anyway, I'll stop rattling on about the babies and let's start talking about Bitcoin. So yeah, 8,500, which is where the top of this itchy cloud was. It's also been a relatively decent area to find resistance against when we crashed down the first time to this level here, this 7,000, was it 7,750? So this is basically the range that we're playing in now, the same exact range that we played in at this level here. And this, to me, doesn't seem to suggest that this area will be broken massively anytime soon. It could do, because we are in an uptrend, a clear uptrend, and we were in a downtrend at this point, so we're now in a clear uptrend. We've not taken out the previous highest point here, which is what we really want to do, and that would definitely confirm the fact that we're going bullish. Now, the fact that a lot of these altcoins have pumped quite high, and some of them have made significant highs, to me suggests that the uptrend will continue with Bitcoin when everything else. Just because money is pouring into the market into other areas, it will find its way into Bitcoin, and then that will dictate the entire market. So what we're getting now is we're getting this retest of the area that we've literally just broken now, and if we can close above here on a daily, then it would set the week up for a good move. Let's have a look at Ethereum then, shall we? Because Ethereum basically trends alongside Bitcoin. Get out that 5-minute chart because it's kind of useless. Ethereum's looking a little bit ready to be rejected at this level now. That's the 200 EMA you're looking at there, that big fat white line. Breaking above there and closing above there is obviously going to be bullish, and what I'd expect is a retest of the 200 simple and then up and away at that point. The MACD crossed. It did cross alongside Bitcoin, which had a cross, which is usually pretty bearish, but it doesn't look like it's going to have bearish continuation to the extent that everybody expected it to, which was, well, there was a lot of bearish people talking, and I'm known to be a bit of a perma bear on these sort of things. But for me personally, even if it did become super bearish, we'd be bouncing around 8,000 to start with. then we'd continue down to this red line here, which is 7,750, which was where we tested all these times here. And I believe that unlike this time when we crashed down and bounced right above and then came back down to basically crash down below it, I believe that if we did test this area, this would cause the bounce, which then has continuation. So we might still come down to test that level, because we've had this cross here. The RSI is still quite high, so this run that we'll have now would probably peter out and then come down to collapse. The only way that this RSI coming up to its all-time sort of, well, I say breaking above the top level here, going into the overbought territory, if that manages to push us up and above and close above 9,550, if we can close above there and the RSI is still going and we can close ideally, closer to the 10,000 mark, then I would say yes, we will have a pullback, but we will continue on. So this cross here will not be irrelevant, but it won't be as relevant as everyone thinks it is. Yes, we will need to come down, so whether that means that we stay above 9,500 for a period of time and consolidate or go sideways, allowing the RSI to reset for another leg up. So I do think we're going to be looking at some decent moves coming into this week. I personally have a bit more of a bias on the fact that we're likely to see higher highs get made this week. Now that might be completely wrong, like I say, because we do have this, and this cross on a daily shouldn't be ignored, but it has happened. So anything is possible at this point. It has happened, but I think that the momentum at this point, and as of next week, will push us up, and we'll get to probably closing above the 9,500 mark. If we get rejected from there again, then yeah, we might probably look at a bit more of a consolidation back down. A pullback, not consolidation, a pullback down to this level, and it's at this level where I would be setting some decent longs up, because this would be, I would expect this bounce to be the same as when we came down to test this level here. It might be the next opportunity, or the last opportunity, to catch essentially a bottom. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, so this is not financial advice, but that's what I'm doing. At the moment, I'm longing already. I was longing from 8,200. So I'm doing okay at the moment. It's still squeaky bum time, though, because it could completely fall down. We just don't know. Obviously, I've got a stop loss, so if I'm not going to lose anything. I'll just break even, maybe a little bit less than that, depending on how fast it falls. Anyway, that's Bitcoin. That's also the way that Ethereum's going. The good thing about Ethereum, though, is if we break above the 200 EMA, which we might be doing, and closing above there. I know we did it on these moves here, and we came back down, so it doesn't hold as much relevance to it as I'd like to think it does. But it's another test, and breaking above it and closing above it. We want to see ourselves supported above it. This was a spinning top. Here is what they call it, if you want to be geeky like me. They call this the spinning top, and it basically shows indecisiveness. You've got as much wick from the bottom as you do from the top, basically meaning that yes, we have closed above it, but it doesn't know which way it wants to go. The law of averages would have suggested that it would continue up, even though we would have been pushing towards the top of the Bollinger Band. As you can see, these wicks being brought back down inside the Bollinger Band, and again, we did close just underneath the 200 EMA on this occasion, but then it wasn't enough, and it came back down. Again, that would be because Bitcoin did the same as well, so you've got to bear all of that in mind. But unfortunately, this didn't hold above, and it wasn't supported. At the moment, we're getting this is resistance at the moment. Breaking above there would be great, and then we'll see where we go from next week. Breaking above there and closing above there is good. Getting a clear support with less of this this kind of spinning top business going on should prove to be pretty bullish for Ethereum. Those who know me on my Telegram chat know that Ethereum is my biggest holding at the moment. Ethereum and Binance Coin are my biggest holdings, because the charts do look like they are, especially with Ethereum, that they are about to do something pretty big at some point quite soon. In the next couple of months, they're looking to do something quite big. But this, at the moment, technically it's not bearish, but it's not bullish. We need to break above there, close above there, but get supported above there, and then we're up and away. Right then, let's have a look at Binance Coin, which is pretty much the same chart when you look at it, pretty much the same chart as Ethereum. Actually not looking quite as good as Ethereum, but it trends pretty much the same. In fact, Yeah, it's not as good. It's not as good as Ethereum. It used to be. A few weeks ago, this was doing a lot bigger moves than most of the coins, and it was my biggest holding back then. I switched over to Ethereum, took a bit of a hit, but that's, you know, like I say, because I don't have the opportunity to trade like I used to now that I'm a father of two. I thought, right, let's weigh it all up, let's balance it out. Which is going to be not the biggest or the best, but the safest bet with a relatively decent returns, better returns than Bitcoin, and I chose Ethereum. But other than that, I would have chosen BNB. BNB, again, needs to come up to test this level here, probably get rejected from it, as we've been rejected every time we've touched it. But breaking above 18.2, which is where I sold it at, because it's the obvious choice. Look, you see where we've been testing it all these times. Excuse me, got a bit of a cold as well. Breaking above there is going to be bullish for it, and at that point I'd expect it to make it all the way up to around about $20 for a coin. That's what I would be expecting from Binance coin. Again, looking at some of these charts, and I'm trying to. Sorry, I'm reading a text message here. Sorry, I can't multitask. It's unfortunately something that I can't avoid due to my gender. But yeah, looking at this guy, it looks like it's going to follow the tracks of Ethereum. Binance coin is definitely going to have a decent year and a decent couple of years, because the more money that comes into crypto, a lot of it clearly is going to come through Binance, and you know, everybody's incentivized to hold Binance coin. So yeah. Let's have a look at one then for you guys on the Telegram chat, because I know some of you guys are watching, especially you, Chris. And let's have a peep at this. Not on the 5 minute though, because what would be the point of that? Again, a coin that this one completely trends on its own way, completely doing its own thing. It doesn't look, when you look at these charts right there, I mean, they all kind of mimic each other. We've got a negative cross on the MACD, we've got a negative cross on the MACD, we've got a negative cross on the MACD, but each one of them is making pretty much that same wiggle towards or above the 200 EMA. One isn't doing any of that. Negative cross, I don't think so. We've had a positive cross all the way from back here, and we've just recently, this last few days, just last week, gone into the bullish territory. RSI constantly making higher highs and higher lows, so that looks to me like accumulation. Now, I mean, the problem with this is that the chart looks quite good actually when you look at it like that, and now we're making our way above that green 50 exponential. We're heading into this resistance cloud, which is could prove to be pretty nasty, being rejected from the 100 EMA, but we're being accumulated the entire time. So the main problem I've got, and you know, you all know it because I talk about this on the Telegram chat, is the volume is so low that it's very difficult to imagine it making enormous moves. People are talking about it doing 2x's, 3x's and stuff. Obviously it will do that one day, but I'm not really thinking it's likely to do anything like what Matic did, which is do a 4x in about, you know, less than a month. Don't expect to see anything quite like that with one. It doesn't matter what technology they bring out. I would be very surprised to see it do that with the volume that it's got. The thing is, Matic, you know, after its original pump that it had, it was on the radar, and it actually usually had quite good, even in its darkest times earlier on in last year. It always had decent volume. Look at this in the same way that I looked at BitTorrent token. So I'll just bring that chart up actually, and we'll look at the same kind of deal, and see if you kind of get what I'm talking about. Because on my Telegram chat, I did say that, and I made a video on it actually. The BitTorrent token looked like it was ready to do a pump, and a couple of days later it did that pump, and the reason for that is that we had what looks like similar sort of setup to that of One at the moment. Excuse me. Which is a relatively long and steady period of accumulation, resulting in getting into bullish territory, and as soon as we got into that bullish territory, we pumped. And how far did we pump? We pumped quite well, so let's just measure it from the second that the first day, let's just say, well, it was here, wasn't it really? The first day, if you can see where the MACD had that positive cross into bullish territory, we made 34, was it 37? from bottom to top, 36.37% move. Now, the volume on BitTorrent token, even back in these areas here, was quite high. I think it was along the lines of, and this is before the pump happened, it was along the lines of between 5 to 8 million in a 24-hour period. So that's quite high for something that's not pumping, you know. And then when we did finally manage to do it, we did pump, and we pumped what, 37%, and that's with a coin with decent accumulation period and decent volume. So I don't think anything happened in the world of BTT to make it do that. That was just on the chart and the technical analysis and blah blah blah, the sort of stuff I usually look at, which didn't mean it was a safe bet, but it meant it looked pretty positive. So when you look at that chart, okay, so you have this long period of accumulation. Let's just measure how long that took from the positive cross, which would be from this day here. Obviously we came down in value for a little while, up until the pump, which took place on here. That took 37 days of accumulation from that point forward. So let's measure this out then. So a positive cross, we could say it happens at this point here, and we made our way into bullish territory at this point here. So 27 days. I'm not saying that this is anything to do with timing. I'm just giving you an example of how the charts look similar, but what to expect as a result. So we've got 27 days before we moved into technically the bullish territory, above the 0 point on the MACD. We're just going by accumulation at this point. So how far are we into it now? 31 days. So maybe you could expect something, you know, if you think about it in time frames in the next week or so. But would we expect a 2x? I'd be very, 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 very surprised if we did on this coin, because we've got low volume. And again, when you looked at BTT, you know, it's a lot. It's more heavily traded. The volume was high, even as we were trending downwards. So that's my take on it. If we did make a pop, then yeah, 25%. Yeah, I could see that. 50% would be pushing it. 100%, I find it very, very unlikely. Where would we need to get to? We need to get to and above this level here. So how far would that be from the price action we're at right now? 68% from where we are now to where we need to be. I know this is descending actually, so every day that goes by it'll be less and less and less. I think what will happen is as these, as this descends further and further, and this green 50 gets an uptrend on it, they will eventually get close enough for people to start to consider it to be bullish. And if we still have this period of accumulation, then at that point, yeah, I could imagine a 2x on that one. But it doesn't look like it wants to happen anytime soon. It looks like a very slow burner, which for me is one of the reasons why I'm more interested in top cap coins when we're having these bullish outbreaks. And I know that fundamentals are something I do not do and I can't do. I just go by the chart, but this is what the chart says to me. Low volume, but a period of accumulation could suggest a pump of maybe 25% at its very most. But that's just the way I look at it. So that's just my take on it, and that's a take simply done on the chart and the technical analysis and the volume trading, all that sort of stuff. It's got nothing to do with the technology or the fundamentals, which I know is what a lot of those guys on my Telegram chat are very into, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's a skill that I wish I could have, or should I say the time that I just do not have, is to look into all those things. But again, just because someone's got good technology doesn't necessarily add value to it. It just doesn't. I mean, it's likely to. There's no reason why it shouldn't, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will. So that's my take on it anyway. That's how I view One. That said, though, I do hold some One, so I have not a fair bit, but a modest amount. So I'm willing to gamble and trust my fellow Telegram chatters on their knowledge. So, and again, I do expect to see maybe a 25% pump, so you can't complain with that. BTT, we won't bother looking at that unless someone wants me to. Matic, shall we have a look at Matic, or should we look at some other things? See someone, who's that? Bryce Nelson. You want to have a look at XRP? Let's have a look at XRP then, because I do trade. I am holding XRP, and I actually do have a 4x long on XRP. So I do have a bit involved in this at the moment. and I've not really looked at it, to be honest. So a quick sip of tea, and then I'll get back to you on it. Hang on a sec. Oh, that's good stuff. Bit of Earl Grey. Right then, let's have a peep. So, XRP. We are, and have been, as of today, held at the centre of the Bollinger Band on the daily, which is just as well, because if we fell down below there, we'll be coming down to close to 20 cent again. But at the moment, we've been saved at the last minute, a nice little bounce. But again, this is the same sort of bounce that all these coins are seeing. XRP is at a relatively important level, breaking above 23 cent and staying above 23 cent. From what I remember previously, has some relevance to it. So where were we? 23 cent. Yeah, this is where we found a bounce back down here all that time ago. And we haven't retested it since then, but essentially this is where it bottomed out before we had our initial sort of move back up in the beginning of the year. So 23 cent breaking up and up, getting above there is something pretty good to have. You can see as we came down to test that's 25 cent. So it's not really 23 cent at all, is it? To be honest with you, no, it's not. It's not 23 cent at all. That's a shame. This is why I shouldn't trade. With kids, you just don't have time to do what you need to do. It's not 23 cent. It's about 24 cent. 24. Oh, well, actually 25 cent really. Anyway, buying it back down here at this level between 20 cent and 23 cent could be a bit of a gamble. Depends on how much leverage you want to put on this. I personally don't see this coming back down to 20 cent, so I accumulated quite a lot of it when it was below 20 cent. Now that we're above it, I would expect 20 cent to be again our level of support if we were to come back down that level again, which we might do. I don't think we will, but we could do. Breaking below it would be pretty hard going. It would involve Bitcoin breaking down below 7,750 again, and down to the low 7,000s. A bit of nicotine spray as well. I'm really living it large tonight, boys and girls. So, what do I expect to see from it? We're at the top of resistance cloud, obviously being rejected from that now on this edgy cloud here. As the days and next week continues, if we can be held at the centre of the Bollinger Band, which will have an uptrend to it, we will move our way out of this cloud. We'll probably be rejected from this 100 simple moving average, which again has a negative slope on it. There's nothing technically bullish about this chart at all. All the slopes on the daily are bearish. The only thing I'm going by is historical price action, which to me would suggest that we came down so low at these levels here that it was rude not to buy it, and the chances of us coming down to 20 cent and breaking it is quite unlikely. So buying it and holding it with like I say a 4x leverage long for me is quite a lot. So I do believe that we're likely to turn a corner soon, and XRP will be one of those ones that when it does break above that 25 cent, it'll sail its way up close to 30 cents again quite soon, quite quickly, and then it'll probably it'll make some moves, but it's not going to do a great deal because it was a really bad underperformer. You can see when we broke above the 29 cent here, we made some big moves, but that was pretty much it. It's not much at all. So I'm not expecting a great deal. We did have a golden cross here, but there was no point in trading this golden cross really, because it was at this point really that the market started to fall out of itself, and that is a terrible golden cross really. Terrible golden cross took place there. Price action was right up here, so really we came all the way back down here, bounced on the green 50, made our top here, which it's just a terrible chart really to trade using stuff like the moving averages, which is my bread and butter really. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I think we were looking to turn a corner. We'll make our way up to that 25 cent, and we just have to break up above 25 cent. Breaking above 25 cent, making our way towards 30 cent, it'll be fine by me. I might even think about closing my long at that point, because it's a bit of a risky business, and that'll be a nice little earner for me at that point. Bought quite a bit of it when it was in low teens as well. I knew you could go wrong buying it at those levels. Well, yeah, it was a steal, wasn't it? It was like the Black Friday sales on XRP, and again, XRP is not one of those coins that's destined for greatness. it might be destined for mass adoption. I don't think that's going to reflect in the price. Anyway, let's have a look at Chainlink. So Chainlink avoided this death cross amazingly. That is a big move from there to there. So let's just measure this one out. 47, 48 basically percent move from bottom to top there. So yeah, bouncing again exactly the same as all these other coins, bouncing at the center of the Bollinger Band on the daily. Very good sign to be bouncing from there. That would suggest to me that we're likely to come back up towards the top of the Bollinger Band at some point, probably sooner rather than later, next week or so. So I expect to see Chainlink coming up to this level here or just below. We'll call it $2.80. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. To see it at this point collapse back down and not make a decent attempt to get towards the top of the Bollinger Band would be quite unlikely. If it lost its momentum and came back down to test it again and breaking down beneath it, it would be quite unlikely. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But the chart to me looks like it's got a clear support 1, 2, 3 times now on the centre of the Bollinger Band, looking for a push above it. Now, as far as the chart's concerned, we've been bullish on this for a while, technically playing out a golden cross ever since last year. So no golden cross, no death cross took place on this coin, which is completely unlike all the other alts. All alts had a death cross. Chainlink didn't get one. So what does that mean? It means technically it's been bullish this entire time, despite falling all the way from up here down to here. It's pretty volatile, definitely. Is this the start of a new uptrend? I think if the market uptrends, Chainlink will definitely uptrend, and I think this level here, $3.70, is going to be the main one to beat. If we can get above $3.70, close above there, yeah, this all-time high will be taken out shortly. Not shortly after, but inevitably will be taken out as a result of that. So Chainlink looking pretty good. So Yoshi, let's have a look at Matic then, shall we? And we'll get off the 5-minute chart. So this coin just is like it's an absolute melodrama, if people know what that means. What we're looking and what we're waiting to see is for us to get above at least where we are now, the price that we are now, and hopefully a little bit higher, because what has been on the horizon for all this time, for such a long time now, is this death cross, the green 50 beneath the white 200. If that if that crosses down below there, we will be in bearish territory at that point. We've been pretty much static since we broke down from here. Have been making an uptrend though. It's ever so small. We can see if there's any kind of movement that we can trace it to. Not particularly, not on the wicks at least anyway. There is a small uptrend, I suppose. I don't know, there's something to it, but it's not clear. It's a bit messy. It's definitely messy. It's definitely messy, but there's something to it. Okay, so let's just measure this out a little bit further up. And this is a mess, by the way. This is very loose. It looks like there's a support, there's an uptrend of support, but it's ever so small, but it does exist. So if we're static in price at the level that we're at right now, which generally looks like it kind of is, we will be looking for a bit of a breakout or a breakdown, probably within the next week, because we're heading into this resistance cloud, which will be pretty nasty. That'll be 5 days from now when we hit it. That is meant to push it down in value. But if we start to make our way into it and we continue with this uptrend of support, then maybe there could be a breakout. What we'll also bear in mind is that we've got these. We'll measure it from the green 50 because that's better than the. So it's basically, it looks like it wants to and has to do something within the next week. So that's what I'm expecting. Now, is it going to go full Matic mode? That's the problem. Full Matic mode at this point, to me, will only be confirmed once we break above 2 cent. That 2 cent area is basically where we were rejected from, and this bounce took us up to 2 cent. This bounce took us up to 2 cent. We didn't get close to it on this attempt. If we get up to and above 2 cent, then yeah, maybe we'll go Matic mode. And then the same old magic number is the 2.7 cent, which is where we've had this, the reason we had this is because this is where we were rejected from on the move down from that big parabolic top at the beginning of last year, or around May. So we were rejected there, we smashed above it here, and that's where we went, technically not parabolic, but we definitely did some big moves after then. So the 2.7 cent also corresponds to the top of this Ichimoku cloud. That's TA for you. So we knew that was a decent level to break above. Again, the Ichi cloud confirms that to us. So, breaking above 2 cent, hopefully accumulating around 2 cent, and then breaking above here, then yeah, I'm happy to trade Matic above 2 cent once it gets supported on there. It'd have to be a decent support though. I don't want to see it making big bold moves above 2 cent and essentially going into Matic mode. I want to see it go up, break up, test it, and then start to make higher highs. Then I'll definitely get back involved in Matic at that point. But for me at the moment, it's a waiting game. You could put your money in now if you wanted to. I'm not fancying it myself, but you could. I don't fancy it. It's a gamble, considering that we're heading into this resistance cloud and we're beneath technically the green 50. We could break down, but the market looks like it's picking up. It definitely is today. If it picks up for the rest of the week, it should take Matic with it. Matic has been trending with the overall market, as you can see. The MACD it's a combination of things like BitTorrent token on one. This long period of accumulation could do a little bit longer, and then almost having a negative cross on the zero, on the neutral point, but then just avoiding it narrowly. So it's a real sort of gamble, this one. But I do like it. Obviously, I like it. I've been trading Matic all last year. It's made me a fair bit, a few quid at least. Let's just say that. But personally, at the moment, it's a waiting game for me. I'd like to get involved in it, but let's give it a week, see what happens when it hits this resistance cloud, which is basically where this little area is going to start to get so tightly wedged. If it breaks up, great. If it breaks down, unlucky. If it does break down, let's start looking at some of these previous supports that we had. Areas like this area found a decent bounce, didn't it? 1.38 cent, and clearly this area would be a good area to buy it at. Risky, you'd be catching knives, but the 1.123 cent, which is where it bounced both of those times quite significantly, as almost pretty much doubling, getting close to doubling from that bounce on 2 occasions just recently after this collapse. So yeah, that's my stand on Matic. That's how I look at it. So let's have a look at this bad boy, which is unbelievable, to be honest with you. It's absolutely unbelievable. And this is one of the reasons I like Ethereum, because I do have a theory that when this is finally over, which might not ever happen, it's looking very strong, let's face it, the money's going to pour into somewhere. It's going to go into Bitcoin or Ethereum or both. There's a lot of money on this at the moment. There's enormous amounts of volume, absolutely phenomenal amounts of volume on this coin. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a daily chart with a golden cross from back here at this price action. You can measure it from here, you can measure it from here. Depends on where you want to value that. But either way, what's happening is that if the golden cross at its lowest level was here, we've technically been supported from that level and this candle. This candle, more or less, you could give that one that candle to, and this one, and this one. So it looks as though this level here, roughly speaking, $8, give or take, is the support. So if we come back down to test that area or close to it, then yeah, maybe you could risk your money on that one. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, it's not financial advice, but it looks like we've got a clear support at that level, and that level is where we had the golden cross take place. So if this is the confirmation of bullish mode, it would suggest to me that the support on this is going to be $8, and any pullback towards $8 or just below should probably get bought back up again, and then sailing our way. Who knows how far it will go? Got no idea. I can't tell you. I'm afraid I've got no idea how far it will go. Let's have a look. Is there any telltale sign as to where it's going to go? Well, these are the rejection points. Definitely. We had one here, and it looks like we were rejected more or less around that level on here. A lot of this is FOMO, so these candles are not exactly to to the T, but they're more or less around the same point, breaking above there. So basically this is the deal. Let's get something out. Let's get something straight here. So $8 on the point, really, I'd be happy to buy. And if you wanted to be safe, you'd be looking to sell around this level, which is 9.4. Breaking above there and supporting above there means that we could be seeing some big bold moves again from this coin. Let's have a look at these guys. It doesn't look like it really has enough momentum left in it to do those, but this is the trading range. We've got $8 to basically $9.50. We'll be bouncing around within here is what I'd expect. Consolidating basically within this range would be perfect, giving the RSI enough time to cool down. The MACD can do what it wants. It's very high, not overextended, but close to it. It needs to come back down. All this needs to be reset and come back down again. So this would be my trading range in here, and this is what I'd want to see. Coming back down to this level, I could buy. I wouldn't, depending on the state of these indicators, I'll probably look at to sell close to here, depending on how high and how overextended the RSI is at the time. At the moment, it's looking like it's overextended, so maybe a rejection or close to it, and inevitable come back down to towards the $8 set mark. But it depends on time. This is to do with time. This is really to do with time. Price action is important. If we crash, then this will come down with it. But if we stay static or trade within this range for a period of time, this will also come back down inevitably, which is what we want. We don't want to be buying it when it's this high, because it's not likely got high and much further to go before it comes back down again. It would be the equivalent of going into a FOMO position. That's how I see it. But it's definitely looking very strong. Golden cross, all this lot. Could be the start of what would be a bull flag, basically. Jesus, how you doing, Jesus? Yeah, BCH. Yeah, Bitcoin Cash is what they call it, an oscillator, don't they? So whatever Bitcoin does, it does times 2 or 3 or more. So yeah, it's like Bitcoin on steroids. It does what Bitcoin does, but better. But the problem obviously is if Bitcoin comes down, it comes down in better. So yeah, I do like Bitcoin Cash. I do trade it a little bit, not on things like Bybit or anything like that. I do it on my CFD platforms. Oh yeah, I'm sure you are. Yeah, and Jesus is another guy on my Telegram chat who forced me into a position of Bitcoin SV, and I'm so glad he did, because look what happened there. So this guy is another one of those blokes who's more into his fundamentals than anything else. He's a bit of a jack of all trades, and it seems to be working out very well for him. So well played, Jesus. Praise the Lord. You are, one of those experienced guys that makes extremely good calls. So, and I'm very grateful for the pressure you put me under for taking on that position, and it's done very well. So thanks a lot. Excuse me. I've really got a frog in my throat. I don't think I'll be able to carry on with this live stream for too much longer. But if you've got any coins you want me to have a look at, tell me, and I'll have a quick peep. For the moment, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna have a look at Ethereum, because I just gonna bring it down to some lower time frames. Again, because this is my biggest holding at the moment. So yeah, this looks like it wants to do a decent move at some point soon, actually. Going down to the 4 hour, obviously we had our golden cross, and that's played out. We're now, when we look at the MACD, about to cross over to the 0 point, which is great. RSI, it's still got room to go, so short term this could be looking to make moves close to where it last saw itself, probably more along to this level, around the mid, we'll call it 175. That would where I expect to see a pullback at this point. Ooh, excuse me, I just did a horrible burp. Sorry about that, guys. I'm a mess. Kids really take it out of you. Just I never burp. Sorry about that. Right. So yeah, Ethereum looks like it's set to pop, which is what I'd like to hear. This is the sort of thing I want to see. This is what I want to hear, because this is my biggest holding. Right, let's have a look at these then. So Jesus, I'll have a look at Ren for you, and I do keep an eye on Ren actually. We'll look at it on the stats level because the tether pairing is too small of a chart to look at. Okay, right. So 4 hourly, daily. Right, so if you remember, Jesus, when we went through this before, we didn't want to buy it here because it didn't have a decent bounce. On this second attempt, it broke down. So we were looking for it to come down close to 400, which it didn't, unfortunately, get down that low. But the closer it gets to 400, the higher it bounces. So now what we're looking for is we're looking to see it. You could buy it down here if you wanted to. You could buy it, and again, I'm not a financial advisor. It's not financial advice. On the daily, we're still playing out a death cross. So we got a death cross here on the daily. Okay, so that's quite powerful. So we're still technically playing that out. So it's risky business buying it at this point. I'm not saying it's going to dump. I'm just saying it's not bullish yet, and it's recently had a death cross. So it's not a great thing to be picking up at this moment, but you could risk it. What I would say is anytime it comes close to the low 400s, that's where we're looking to be buying it up again, because historically this is where we bounce from. We bounced there. We've been showing relative strength down towards the low 400s. If we do pump again and we close above this level, 531, and get supported above there, then that might be technically a new bottom for us, a local bottom where we could start buying it up again. But we'd have to see that tested several times before we really made a decision on that. Again, we came down here, we tested it several times, and we made pumps from it, but we eventually came back down again. The reason for that, I suppose, parabolic move and a parabolic crash, really. This still, to me, does look bearish, because after a big move like this, we do need to see consolidation. Well, this is more of a dump, basically, similar to that of Bitcoin when that pumped. This is like a small version of that. So Bitcoin took a whole year to recover. I'm not saying Ren's going to take that. Ren might take a few more months to show signs of decent recovery. It definitely trends differently to the other alts, but I don't really like the chart itself. I think it's a bit risky myself. I wouldn't be comfortable saying get in or out at any specific level at the moment, because it still looks like we're basically making lower highs. Each of these pumps, as good as they are, they only result in lower highs. So let's just see how it goes, because there is a chance that it could completely dump. So I'm not really feeling this one myself. So that's kind of how I see it. If you want to take a risk, you could risk buying the low 400s and wait for another pump, but the pumps seem to be getting smaller each time, and there is that chance that we will crash. I know it sounds crazy in a market which is so lucrative at the this last few weeks, but Bitcoin hasn't chosen to do its reversal technically yet until we break and stay above 9,500. So because of that, I wouldn't expect to see any other coins choose to do anything other than that. I hope that's useful for you. Cardano then, let's have a look at that for Mr. Jay-Z Poker God. Let's have a look. On this one I will go to Tether because I can. Let's see where we go. So this used to be, again, one of those oscillators where it did what Bitcoin did but better, but then it completely crashed and hasn't done anything similar to that in a long time. We'll go down to a smaller time frame, because the daily kind of still looks pretty much like all the alts, in all fairness. So a golden cross on the 4 hourly, that's fine. Creeping our way up above it looks like Ethereum, really. Creeping our way up to the 0 point on the MACD. Being supported ever so slightly on the 4 hourly above the green 50. So it's very much like something like Binance coin or Ethereum, trending in exactly the same kind of way. Let's go back to the daily, see if we can mark out some targets for it. So yeah, it's just like Ethereum actually. So we're getting our way towards the top of the 200 EMA, getting rejected each time, breaking above this level here. So the price would be 4.5 cents. Breaking above 4.5 cents should see some decent moves, but breaking above there is going to be difficult. Again, it's very much like all these other coins. We could break extremely bullish. It could be a failed attempt. Where all the alts are being held up in exactly the same way. This is the top cap alts. They all have the same chart. They all look the same, more or less. Which is they're still beneath the 200 EMA. They're above the green 50 EMA on the. This is all on the daily, and if they can hold between these two levels, it will eventually form a golden cross. But it hasn't happened yet, which means that it's technically not bullish, but there is an opportunity at this point to catch a move that could be really, really big. But it could completely fail as well, meaning that it's a risk. Now, I'm not really trading a great deal. I'm making kind of safe trades generally at the moment because I don't have the time to do it. But what I would say is this one looks stronger in many ways to a lot of other coins because it's above the center of the Bollinger Band already. But a rejection at this point here would bring us back down to the center of it again, I would imagine, and then being supported from there. So again, what can I say? All alts, BNB, Ethereum, ADA, they're all in the same boat. Litecoin as well. I remember looking at Litecoin. It's all the same, all beneath the 200 EMA, all being rejected from the 200 EMA, and eventually we'll find a squeeze when this. Let's just say that this moves up at that same rate, that green 50. Roughly speaking, this is not how you should do things, but roughly speaking, it's coming up at that kind of speed at the moment. This is, roughly speaking, doing that kind of a move, roughly speaking, with a bit of a downtrend on it, which means that middle of February, and this is a lot I don't watch many other people on YouTube because I find it throws me off my own game, but there's a lot of hopium expected to take place end of Feb, beginning of March, for essentially a new Bitcoin cycle, which would mean an entire crypto market cycle to begin, and that's when things are meant to be taking off. This would suggest something similar to that if we were to trade within this range. Middle of February should have decided which way it wants to go. This isn't a. There's no science to this. There's no real uptrend support level going on here. That's just measuring the green 50, which technically is at the moment is a support level. But yeah, middle of February, we should have hopefully have had a breakout from all coins. So any alt, any top cap alt, excluding things like XRP, which is a risk in itself, buying it at this level, and again, I'm not a financial advisor, this isn't financial advice, could be the best thing you've ever done, because at the moment it looks like a lot of these coins are wanting to make that breakout, but they're being rejected at the price level that they are currently at or just above. So you could be into either making loads of money or losing loads of money. So again, I know that's not very useful for you. Technical analysis, the way I do it is I don't do it day trading or anything like that. I try and work out what's going to be going on in the next week or two or a little bit more. I find that's the more reliable way to do it. Generally, only ever really look at the daily charts and maybe the 4-hourly charts to see how things are likely to play out in the next week. But in the next few weeks, pretty much is where I like to look at things and price things out. And I do believe that the way that things are going, if you were to be buying and holding, and then this isn't leverage trading, this is buying on an exchange and holding your coins, I do believe that buying things at this level right now will be a decent investment in the next few months, because it would mean that worst case scenario they go down in value, your tokens would be worth less than they were when you bought them, but over the next period of 2 or 3 months they could be close to doubling. Most of these could be close to doubling in their values in the next 2 to 3 months. That's kind of how I see it. Doesn't mean it will happen that way. It just means that it's more likely to break up over that period of time than it would be to break down. Yes, it could break down now, and it could be staying down for about 4 to 6 weeks, but eventually it will break up. Bitcoin looks like it wants to do that. Bitcoin appears to have strong support levels beneath it, and Bitcoin is the dictator of the entire market. So if that's the case, I would expect the case to be that for all these top coins that we're looking at here, excluding some of these like One and Matic and BTT, they kind of have their own thing going on, even though they do follow the market. That's how I see it. So ADA, BNB, Ethereum, even XRP, Chainlink, Ethereum Classic, Litecoin, all those guys look like they're about to do a decent breakout. Maybe not so much Ethereum Classic, because that's already had its breakout, but things like ADA, BNB, Ethereum and XRP look like they want to have a breakout within the next 2 to 3 months, and that breakout could mean a 50 to 100% increase in its value. Anyway, I've rambled on for long enough and I've made my throat sore. If you've got any other coins you want me to have a quick look at, I'm very happy to do so. Otherwise, I'll call it a day. My tea's gone cold, so I'll have to make another one of those. No doubt I'll have 2 children crying for my attention throughout the rest of the night, and I think I need to get my energy up for that. Oh. Also, really appreciative to those who sent me donations and those who are going to send me donations. It means a really, really big deal, especially you, Chris. That I know you've not sent it through yet, but that what you're going to send me is like an unbelievable amount of crypto, and I'm very appreciative of that. And when all this pays off, in 2 years' time, and we've made our money and we've sold up, we will definitely have to meet up somewhere, all of us on the Telegram chat, or those who can do it, because I know we're all from all around the world, but if it's possible, we'll meet up somewhere and we'll all have a nice drink and celebrate, preferably somewhere like Amsterdam or something like that, but I'm not bothered. We can go to Leeds, I don't care. Anyway, I'll leave it with you there. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have a nice evening. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.